Hello and welcome back to ChäoS Noah. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we started Rimi's route. A lot of it was around how Rimi ended up, joining the class, how she ended up essentially trying to develop her relationship with Takumi, and how things went all wrong. How she ended up stumbling upon the scene of the murder with the crucifixion, and how she ended up being the demon girl or devil girl, whatever, from Takumi's point of view. We also had some other minor things such as Senna step on me and underwear Rimi, and that's also apparently a costume too. But yeah, we're at chapter 6. I want to try to see how far I can get and hopefully get to the end. So let's head into it. For this delusion, the first delusion for this chapter, I'm actually supposed to do nothing. This is when we get a call from Shogun, so let's do nothing. Now we met Senna after I jumped off the building. And we're doing a negative delusion, so let's see what it is. I mean, we're scared of Senna, at least that Takumi is, so this is not going to end well. Senna's hot breath tickled my cheek. Her face was so close, I was worried she might bite me. Why was this woman so violent and so scary? We're resisting this time. Slap! I flailed my hands and by chance struck her on the cheek. Senna fell hard to the ground. I've never seen her so vulnerable. She's like, oh! She was clutching her cheek with her left hand. Or with her hand. I guess it was her left hand. And looking up at me, slightly afraid. All traces of her earlier attitude was gone. Her eyes almost looked like she was about to cry. I'd never seen her look so weak and fragile before. It stirred up a sadistic streak within me. All the anger that had been building up within me exploded all at once. Those were fighting words, words I normally never use, but I said them anyway. Saying them felt good, I felt a lot better. This is really out of character, man. Nah. Senna looked up at me like she was about to cry. It made me want to say more. The way she was lying there, limp. God damn it, Takumi. The way her skirt had just come up to expose her thigh. The way her long black hair trailed on the ground. It was all making me feel excited. We did see a sadistic part of Takumi before when he pushed Yua down, I think.
確かに、見た目明らかに弱そうだもんな、僕は。明らかなドキュンを相手にするより、僕みたいな弱そうな奴をいじめる方が楽だし、楽しいだろう。調子に乗り上がって。僕だって、やるときはやるんだぞこのビッチが
Ah, he said you bitch!
いつまでも、黙ってばかりだとは思うなよ。
I couldn't hold back my anger anymore. I wanted to ruin this bratty little girl forever. I leapt on top of her, pinning her body beneath mine. Is it time to bring out the stake? I grabbed her wrist so that she couldn't move. She was beneath me, looking up at me. Until now, she'd always been looking down on me. But now, I was on top. The feeling of superiority was making my head spin. Her voice was the same as ever, but weaker. Wait, she was crying! In the end, I was a man, I was also stronger than her. Stake up the ass! I couldn't stop myself from laughing. Right now, this woman was under my control. She was mine to do as I saw fit. I had no idea the world could be such a wonderful place. Why hadn't I just done this from the start? What was I so scared of? I couldn't believe that until now I'd been such an idiot. Okay, I'm glad that didn't go any longer. I came back to my senses and found that I wasn't actually on top of Senna. In fact, she was still pinning me on the playground equipment. The sudden change in position had me feeling a little confused. I had no memory of being asked that at all. Had it happened while I was fantasizing about forcing myself on her? I had no idea what was going on, but Senna was still shaking me violently.
誰からだ？答えろ。天聖信仰会とは関係あるのか、ないのか。
Oh, the cosmic church of the what now? I shook my head frantically. Ah, we have all the details now. Oh god. I couldn't breathe. I was gonna suffocate. I was passing out, dying. I couldn't stay awake. I am fine with this. Just before I passed out, Senna suddenly let go of me. I collapsed where I stood. You do realize you're not supposed to choke someone out if you want them to answer you, because they can't answer you! I coughed and tried to force as much air into my lungs as I could. It was the exact opposite of the delusion I had a second ago. I felt even more pathetic. Was Senna my enemy after all? Was she working with Shogun too? If so, I had to get out of here.
関係ないならいい。悪かった。
Senna saw my confusion and looked momentarily annoyed, then sighed. She turned to leave. Alright. Okay, right now we're getting a call. We're trying to call Nanami, and this is when we figure out that she's missing a hand and she needs some help. But this time we're supposed to do a negative delusion once more. Whose phone was ringing? Well, I think you know. Oh man, this is one of the more gruesome scenes. It kind of hurts. Nanami hadn't picked up yet. Come on, pick up already! She picked up.
ななみでしょ。返事しろよ。今どこにいるんだ。大丈夫なの？何か言ってよ。ななみ。
I screamed into the phone, and then a voice spoke.
少しは落ち着いたら。
Actually, now I think about it, they were able to emulate Shogun's voice. Was that like that in the original call? I forgot. I think it was actually obscured. But here, this time it's in Takami's delusion, so he knows what Shogun sounds like, so he probably thought that the other person on the other end of the line sounded like this in his delusion. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Checks out. That voice was Shogun! I gasped in shock. I couldn't figure out why Shogun would answer when I called Nanami's phone. All I could do was repeat the same thing like an idiot.
なんでメールの意味がわからなかったのかな。信じない。こんなの信じない。
Dupe. That's right, I didn't believe it. It was a delusion, my own delusion of what the worst case scenario would look like. But the reality wasn't too far off. Nanami still hadn't answered, and somebody's phone was ringing in my room! It was a cheerful melody, the complete opposite of my own mental state. It felt awful. I felt awful. Nanami's phone had been in my room. It was the only explanation. I couldn't think of any other way to explain it. I couldn't avert my eyes from reality anymore. Okay, we are on the roof of O Front. Now we have to do a positive delusion. Shogun must have brought them all here. They're all being mind-controlled. They're all hoping I'd jump off and die. I could feel an overwhelming surge of negative emotions slam into me. Wasn't there anybody on my side? Suddenly, I heard a voice call my name in the crowd. That kind of sounded like Rimi, I think. It was a voice I heard many times before. A voice I knew well. The voice of the only person in the world who was on my side. I wasn't hallucinating it. I wasn't hearing things. It was Rimi. Rimi was calling to me from somewhere. Where was she? I searched for her as hard as I possibly could. But there were too many people. There was no way to pick out a single person from this crowd, especially from all the way up here. I let my head fall forward, helplessly. As it fell, my eyes saw what was right below me. There was a girl there, waving both hands and looking up.
Rimi!
She was there. She was right there. She came to save me. I was so happy. Everything would be okay now. I nodded again and again. My vision was blurring from the tears. I kept wiping them away rather than lose sight of her for an instant. But when I looked back to where I'd seen her waving her hands, something was wrong. For some reason, the crowd was closing in around her. The wave of black heads started to swell, with her at its center. Several DQN started to reach out and grab her. She tried to shake them off, but there were too many people to escape. It was like being in a packed train at morning rush hour when there are too many people around to even move. No, no! I could hear her faint scream. The crowd around her began to get bolder and swell in number even more. Finally, they began to pull at her clothes. One stripped away her jacket. God damn, is it more of this bullshit? Nobody heard my prayer. The crowd around her kept growing and growing and she was helpless before them. Several of the men tore off her clothes and pulled at her hair and dragged her down the street. Oh, my ear! Finally, she disappeared beneath the black mountain of people. The DQNs were swarming around the spot where she disappeared, like hyenas around an animal's carcass. Oh no, they were gonna rape Rimi. The filthy hands of the mind-controlled DQNs that Shogun had brought had tainted her purity forever. And then, after they raped her, they would kill her. I started to cry, a bit down hard on my lip. I wasn't crying out of sadness or frustration at what had happened to her. I was crying in fear at the realization that now every single person here was my enemy. There was no way I could escape now. Man, he really deludes himself into thinking some fucked up shit. Alright, it's almost time to make the choice. Here we go. I saw a sword. Yes, it's right there on the left. I saw a sword clearly. Yes, it's right there on the left. If I can move from here, I can get it. No, it's floating, man. You can't do that. I can see a sword someplace that wasn't here, too. I don't see any other sword, man. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not actually a sword. It's actually a D-sword. Alright, so that's the same as last time. So we'll head over to the next illusion, which is right now. And we're gonna have a bad time. Okay, what kind of thing would we see? Oh god, it's you. Fuck! Bananami. I hate her so much. Huh? Depends on the chapter. Nanami's my little sister. I care about her. No. I hate this little figure so much. I want to chuck it off the building. It's okay to let her die because you're the one that matters. The most important thing, the anime. Remember, Takumi, the more figures of her that you buy, the more that attack you at the end of the story. Alright, that was the last decision in chapter 6. So we'll head over to chapter 7. Psychopath. Okay, here in chapter 7, we actually start off with new text, so here we go. Rimi Sakihata was standing alone in a dark room, head slumped. The room's owner, Takumi Nishijo, was nowhere to be seen. The door hadn't been locked, so she had been able to walk right in. Rimi looked at the time on her phone. It was a little before 10 p.m. She wondered if Taka was still at the Scramble Crossing. She wanted to go help him. She tried, in fact. But the crush of people in Scramble Crossing was too intense that she barely had been able to move. Oh god, okay. So the thing that he was deluding himself into what didn't actually happen, but man, it could have been possible. The boy's psychic show ended before she could get to O-Front, and just as it had ended, she heard Takami's voice. He wanted her to get Nanami's hand back. It was rare for Takami to ask Rimi for something. Nanami had been kidnapped by Nozomi, and right now they were doing horrible things to her. Takami's mind reading had shown him that much. Rimi had known Nanami in the past, and hearing this made her heart feel like it would burst. There was a cardboard box on the sofa. Inside was a human hand, Nanami's phone, and a cute little bangle. When she saw it, Rimi fell speechless. Oh my god. Oh man. I'm playing this right after the other episode, and I am slurring my words now. She was sad, frustrated, and worried about Nanami. And at the same time, the memories of what she'd suffered in the past came flashing back to her. She bit her lip and spent a while staring at the severed hand. She took a single deep breath to calm herself down, and then closed the box's lid. After resealing it tightly with the masking tape, she put it under her arm and left the room. It's like it never existed in the first place. She took out her phone and used its built-in TV tuner. Huh, do we ever have those? I don't remember that ever being part of my phone, but Japanese phones were ahead of its time. I didn't really have a good phone until the 2010s. A moment ago, she'd been doing a live broadcast from the Scramble Crossing. She wanted to see it. But all the channels were showing nothing but commercials. The live broadcast must have ended. Taku probably wasn't at the Scramble Crossing anymore then. With nothing else to do, Rimi headed back to the room where Takumi waited. To the hospital we go. Damn, that was quick. The lights were off and the room was dark. Like always, Takumi was in his wheelchair, not on his bed. Here, I'll give you a hand. She handed him the box.
直せるかな？直せるよね？
わからない。でもこの病院なら冷凍保存しておける設備がある。
It would be a lot better to keep it cold rather than just leave it to rot, but there was no guarantee that they could ever reattach it. She felt like that's what he was trying to tell her.
大丈夫。きっと治るよ。
Rimi decided to be optimistic.
きっと治るって信じる。もっとも、その前に、ナナミちゃんを助け出さなきゃいけないけど。
ナナミは殺されることはないと思う。焦って動くことはないよ。
You should probably rush a little bit more.
冷静なんだね。ごめん。今言った言葉は忘れて。それより、タクは今どこにいるかわかる？
この病院に搬送されてきたよ。精神科の病室で眠ってる。
そうなの？
Rimi's eyes went wide and she ran out of the room. Oh, is she gonna visit? The hospital was closed to visitors and the lights were turned down. She walked softly down the hallway as she went. She already knew that the people from Nozomi and the Cosmic Church of Divine Light had infiltrated the hospital staff. She couldn't do anything that would attract attention. When she got to the room that Takumi had told her about, she made sure that there was nobody inside before slowly opening the door. Oh god, this room is hella bright. This room's furnishing and walls were a solid white without a trace of warmth to them. Rimi silently walked over to the bed. Taku was sleeping there. His brow was furrowed as he was in pain, and occasionally he would moan. His forehead was damp with sweat. Rimi softly stroked his cheek.
ごめんね。あなたを守ってあげられなくて。
She whispered sadly. Okay. Well, I think the rest should be the same. Alright, first one. Hey Hazuki, how you doing? But we're gonna skip past you. Okay, we're back at school after the incident and everyone hates us. Or they want to bully us or whatever. And here we need to do a bad delusion. So this is when he started thinking about like some pretty awful things. For instance, I could scream and get out of my chair and start attacking one of the DQNs. It'd probably feel good to give one of those assholes what was coming to them. Just start flailing his arms. I slowly stood up. The DQNs were grinning at me, unaware of the hammer of justice that was about to fall on them. I picked up my chair. Holding it above my head, I walked over to the DQN who was the first person to make fun of me. He was so shocked that the grin was still plastered on his face. I brought it down hard on his head. I could feel the impact reverberate through the chair into my body. He collapsed, and a pool of blood was spreading out beneath him. There was silence in the classroom for a moment. And then chaos. The boys and girls screamed, looking at me with terror in their eyes as they fled. I took a moment to enjoy their fear, and then brought the chair down again at full force on the unmoving DQN. The DQN's bodies twitched, but he was either unconscious or dead because there was no sound coming from his mouth. I started to get scared. If I didn't finish him off here, he might get up and attack me. He was a DQN, so he might have a knife in his bag or something. Oh god, this looping, screaming animation is pretty bad. My life was already over, but that didn't mean I wanted to suffer any pain. I had to kill him. I couldn't stop until I was sure he was dead. Man, I hate to say this, but like, I feel like this feeling is kind of realistic. When you push someone to the brink, and, you know, the way they were portraying these bullies were extremely, like, honestly, cartoonishly evil, but not completely out of the realm of possibility and reality. So, like, I could definitely see something like this happening. Someone just being bullied so much that they snap and attack their bulliers. And then again. And again. And again. And then one more time. I stayed in my seat, looking down at my desk, enjoying my delusion. That was awesome. I've been indulging in a little splatter horror. I wish I could really kill them though. I wonder if Kozupi saw all that. I was like, what the fuck? Hi Kozue, thanks for helping me. Alright. This time, we do have a choice. We're gonna have a positive delusion. Oh crap! Okay, we didn't skip it. Positive delusion! Yes! Thank you. Oh, that was close. Clicked the wrong button. I see, so it's a delusion then. So those blood-covered DQNs were probably a delusion too. It has to be a delusion though. Just like Seroton, the voice had to be coming from some new wife that I made up for myself. Polygamy! No! No! Don't worry, Seroton, you're still my wife. And anyway, I didn't recognize this kind of stupid sounding Kozupi character at all! Now that I think about it, I feel like Kozue wouldn't actually be too startled by those kind of visions because I'm pretty sure she probably had them herself. She's really, she's unhinged, that's probably the right word to say. So, what was it then? Don't tell me it's the transfer student in front of me. She looks like she's trembling in terror. She gave it a little nod. What? No way! That was just a coincidence, right? Or maybe she only looked like she nodded and I was mistaken. That's impossible! There's no such thing as telepathy! Unyo? What the heck does Unya mean anyway? For some reason, the transfer student looked sad too. It was strange. Crap, this was getting aggravating. Fine, Kozupi. Prove you're the transfer student. Tell me your measurements. Hiyo! He really is. So you can't answer, huh? Which means you are a delusion. P. Okay, just a bust then. Give me a general number. This conversation that was taking place in my brain was so perverted. was kind of freaking myself out.
73くらいです。
The transfer student did appear to be completely flat. So that matched. By the way, I like flat girls too. For some reason, the transfer student's face was bright red. Her tiny body seemed to get even smaller as she shrank back from me. It was just a coincidence. Her voice and her reactions were linked, but it was just by chance. And anyway, that didn't prove anything.
ちゃんと答えたの。
But how would I know what the transfer student's bra size actually was, though? If I told her to let me measure it, then she called the cops on me. You got that damn right. Fine, what's your birthday?
それなら簡単なのら。11月13日だよ。
Huh. Well, I have no way of knowing if that was true either. If I was social enough to be capable of asking a girl I barely met what her birthday was, then I would have had a girlfriend a long time ago. Not gonna lie, this is kind of funny. Suddenly, the transfer student started to rummage through her bag. She took out something and offered it to me. Student handbook? Yeah, student notebook. And it was a brand new one too. I flipped open to the front page to see a photo of her and the name Kozue Orihara, along with her birth date. Her birth date? I checked the date. It read November 13th.
嘘でしょ。
Kozupita yo. Come to think of it, this name, according to her student handbook, her name was Kozue Orihara. Kozue. Kozupi.
まさか。
だから
What I've been telling you!
最初からそう言ってたのら。コズピーなの。
So this wasn't a delusion? Alright. Okay, Kozui summons her giant D-sword. And here we have a positive... Oh, crap, I skipped it. I'll be back. Alright, back here. So, positive delusion time. The reason I accidentally skip it is because the positive delusion is the left trigger. And sometimes I accidentally click the left bumper, which is skip all text. And that usually messes me up pretty badly. Wow. Where could she be keeping so much power in her tiny body? It had to weigh more than 5 kilograms by my estimate. Kozumi must have read my doubt because she turned towards me and gave me a hesitant smile.
コズピーはタクミちゃんを守るためだけに作られたアンドロイドなのら。
Sometimes they're actually cyborgs, from what I understand from Dragon Ball. They're not androids.
はい。
Did you just say android? What anime is that from? Kozumi ignored my shock and made a cute little fist with one hand.
タクミちゃん、もう安心なの。タクミちゃんを狙う悪いやつは
I'll beat up all the bad guys.
カーンってするのら。ちなみにコズピーはメイド機能もあるの。だからこれからタクミちゃんと一緒に住んで身の回りのお世話もしたいのら。
I see. That would be handy. I was willing to accept that Kozupi was an android, maybe, but for that to happen, there's one thing I wouldn't budge on.
エッチなことをできる機能はありますか？
Of course, of course. I asked my question hesitantly. Only after I spoke did I realize how ridiculous a question it was. As I was wondering whether or not to apologize, Kozupi's cheeks flushed.
エッチなこともできるの。夜のご奉仕頑張るの。
Yes, yes, one more yes. I had a combat maid and one that could service me at night too. Just like an H game. Talk about coming loaded with options, lol. Japan's technology is the best in the world. I heard that German science was though. And then Kozue is gonna read all that and be like, I don't know if I want to hang around you. As I indulged myself in a ridiculous delusion, Kozupi was walking around the shop holding her sword. Okay, great, you didn't see that. She wasn't making any effort to hide the weapon at all. Senna had been the same way. I'd seen her carrying her gigantic D-sword down the middle of Shibuya without any regard for people around her. He didn't seem to care about other people, that other people might stare. Both Senna and Kozupi had something very wrong with them. Alright, the last illusion of Chapter 7 is coming up. And that is when we do the Garigari-kun, like, lottery thing. And in this one, we just kind of skip it. So, I will see you in Chapter 8. So, at least in terms of making choices, Chapter 8 is the last chapter where we have to make like delusion choices. So here we have the first one. Rimi's in our room, and our first delusion has to be a bad one.
ああ、そうですか。そういう態度なら私、帰る。勝手にすれば。
No, don't leave. I don't remember what they were talking about actually. Oh, this is when he was ignoring her, I see. I could hear Rimi standing up. I turned around in surprise and she was heading towards the door. I tried to tell her to stop, but I was in such a panic that I couldn't get the words out. Suddenly, she stopped and turned her head around to look back at me.
妹さんのこと、心配？
どうしてそれを？
I hadn't said a word about Nanami to her.
独り言、ブツブツ言ってたから。ねえ、私と妹さん、どっちが大事？
That was the worst question imaginable. You know how it is. There are mean girls out there who like to ask questions they know you can't answer. They only care about themselves and don't care about you at all. I never thought that I'd actually hear those words spoken in real life though. That was the ugly part of 3D girls. In the end, Rimi was just another one of them. To be honest, I was disappointed. I felt stupid for even trying to open up to her. I should have known that 3D could never be 2D. I decided to just stop hanging out with her altogether. All of my interest in her instantly faded. I let out an annoyed sigh. I wasn't gonna stop her from leaving. In fact, I want her gone right now. But then Rimi did something unexpected.
答えて。私か、妹さんか、どっちか選んで。
The unexpected thing is to ask again. He took what looked like a paring knife out of her bag and put it up to her wrist. Oh. Threatening suicide, I see. I was stunned and terrified.
私を選んで。私だけを見て。
Was that supposed to be a threat? Was this who she really was? Was she actually insane?
お願い。私を見てよ。
君は僕だけを見てくれてないじゃないか。
I made the mistake of giving her a serious response. You were supposed to just ignore crazy girl threats. I regretted it, but it was too late.
見てるよ。
Her voice was horribly cold. Her eyes were bloodshot. There was a mocking smile on her lips.
だから、邪魔者は排除するの。あなたの妹をさらったのも、私だし。
It was me. It was me, Takumi. I did it. You're lying.
タクに選んでもらうためなら、私、こんなことだってするよ。
No, not pink-haired yanderes. We already have enough of that. And then Rimi took the knife that was pressed against her wrist and slowly began to draw it across her skin.
やめろ!
And now she also is missing a hand.
え？やめろって何が？
Oh, whoa, what are you talking about? Suddenly, I was staring at my computer monitor again. I could hear Rimi behind me. She sounded confused. I quickly turned around and saw that she was sitting on the sofa. She had a manga in her hand and she was looking at me, stunned.
タク？顔色悪いけど、どうかしたの？
So that was creepy. Oh, it was just a delusion. That one scared me.
メールだよ。
Okay, Nasu.
今の何？
What was that?
いや、
Rimi had just heard my Seroton emo voice. That was really embarrassing. We are in Ayase's hospital room. Oh man, the last time we had a delusion here. Ooh, Misumi, what happened to you? But yeah, this time we also have to make a red one. But this is not the same scenario. This is before we found Ayase. Okay, let's see what this delusion is.
どこ行ったんだ?
さあ。
The window was open. The wind was blowing into the room, making the white curtains billow. I wandered over to the window. I didn't look at anything. I didn't go too close to the window. It was just a sudden urge, with no real reason behind it. I stood at the window and went up to look at the sky. Then I saw a shadow. Something fell down silently from above. And for a second, my eyes met with its own. Hi, Ase. The shadow disappeared. I heard the loud sound of something smashing into something below. I collapsed where I stood. My body started to shake violently. I realized what it was that I had just seen. Ayase Kishimoto. She'd fallen from above, then hit the ground. If I look out the window, I'd see her there, covered in blood, brains splattered all over the pavement. Oh wait, I remember this line or something similar. I remember he actually thought to himself like, man, I don't want to look out the window because if I see her there, and I imagine her there, it might be real. And now, in his delusion, we're seeing it actually happen, even though it's still a delusion at the moment. Just before she died, our eyes had met. I was the last person to see her, and I was the last person she saw while she was alive. You know, maybe she saw other people on the way down. There's still a floor below you. An awful scream poured from my mouth as I put my hands to my head in terror. Weird book. I looked up in shock when Misumi said my name. I was standing in the corner of the room, nowhere near the window. I ran over to the window and looked out. Ayase was nowhere to be seen below me. Whew, it was just a delusion. I almost collapsed where I stood, but I managed to grab onto the windowsill. Alright, next. Now, we are in Ayase's room with Ayase, but we're going to skip past this part, because it is not relevant. And now we have another decision to make. This is after, after Rimi told us that she was slapped. Here, we need a positive one. So, what was so positive about that slap? Oh. Huh? What did that mean? What? Rimi smiled. She was giving me nervous glances. You can't have him. I'll kill you, and then if he doesn't like me, I'll kill me. Misumi put his hand in my hair and rubbed hard. What did that mean exactly? I didn't understand. My mind had gone blank. So are you talking about, like, Rimi or Ayase? I can't tell. Misumi laughed and gave me a push from behind. I was caught off balance and staggered forward, right in the direction of Rimi. Yeah. I end up bumping into her and wrapping my arms around her. My heart was pounding fast. Rimi's body was so soft and warm. I tried to back away from her, but her hands were wrapped tightly around my back. She was holding me tight, trembling. I was stunned. It felt like I had been struck by lightning. I could feel Rimi's love for me as her body pressed up against mine. I wanted to love her back. I wanted to make her mine, and mine alone. I went to pull her even closer when I saw someone behind her in the distance. Shogun! Oh, no, it's Ayase! It was Ayase holding the D-sword. She was looking at me with hate in her eyes. You two-timing scum! I couldn't hear what she was saying. She was whispering something to herself. I shivered. This is gonna get bad. It was gonna get very bad, very fast. I need to get out of here now. Get your head out of your ass! Misumi was calling me. Rimi was standing next to him, waving. I blinked and looked around me. I wasn't holding Rimi in my arms. Ayase was nowhere to be seen. Any kind of fighting terrified me, and I'd seen enough yandere girls in 2D. I didn't need any in 3D, especially not ones who were in love with me. And he saw several this route in his delusions. I quickly chased after them. Okay, so according to this guide, this will be the last choice we have. In here, this is right before our encounter with Senna. So we need to do a bad delusion. And now we should be on the track to Rimi's route. Rimi's ending. No. Rimi rejected my offer. What was my offer again? I want you to go with me.
一緒に。
私、行きたくない。
I never thought she'd refuse. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This is when he said that he wants to go home, I believe. Yeah, it's a parents' house. And this kind of makes sense because she, like, even if this wasn't a delusion, because she doesn't want to break him out of the Matrix, or else his life is going to be essentially forfeit, as well as Shogun's. So, yeah, this response makes sense. Rimi had always done whatever I wanted. She'd always been there to help me. She'd always been there to support me. So I thought she'd say yes to whatever I asked. But I realize now that I was silly for thinking that she'd always say yes. I'd been arrogant. I treated her like a tool. Yep, yes you have.
そう。
それに、
Rimi turned away from me. She wrapped her arms tight around her body.
それに、タクも、行かない方がいい。
それってどういう。
実家には戻らないで。
Her voice was clear and unhesitating, like she was giving me an order. I didn't understand. I didn't know what would make her say that. What look was on her face right now? I didn't understand.
わけがわからない。
あなたは、何も知らなくていい。
Shh, you don't need to know anything. Just relax and leave it all to big sis Rimi. There was a tension in her voice, a sense of urgency. She was like a totally different person than she'd been before.
ここで、このコンテナハウスだけで、ずっと生きていけばいいの。そうしてもらわないと、困るんだ。
She needed me to do that? Wait, this was a delusion, right? Right? Oh, and then suddenly, a high-pitched sound stabbed my ears. It was like a girl's scream. Okay, attacked by Senna. Alright, so this is apparently supposed to lead into the Rimi route. I don't exactly know how this is going to end up now. But maybe we'll see more at like how the chapter ends. Oh! Oh, I missed this. We have a new chapter title. So right now we're in chapter 9, Anima Archetype. Previously the chapter 9 was called Gigalo Maniac. So this is a complete, yeah, this is a different thing. So, let's continue on with it. Aoi was looking at my D-sword with wide eyes. She'd swung her sword very fast and hard, but blocking it was easy. The D-swords were resonating with each other. There was a loud howling noise coming from them. So we're in the POV of Rimi at the moment. I could feel her negative emotions, her anger and hate passing through the weapon into my body. Oh yeah.
先ほどさんもギガロマニアックスだったのら。
Taku was lying there in shock behind me. The way he was lying there, the odds of him being able to get away on his own were next to none. I had to deal with Aoi somehow.
その男が何をしたか知っているのか ?IR2 という公式を。
知ってるよ。
I cut her off. I didn't want Taku to hear the formula's name.
それなら
タクを覚醒させれば、もっと大変なことになる。
その前に殺す。
あなたには無理だよ。
Aoi was aggressive, but she had the wrong idea about how to use a D-sword. She was too direct, too emotional. If you want to use a weapon as a sword, you could, but you'd be nothing more than a child playing at sword fighting. Maybe someone who'd practiced using a sword could do something with it, but a teenage girl swinging it around was no threat at all.
西条は死ぬべき男だ。この世に最悪を振りまいたんだから。
Her hatred had taken over her mind. I could see the negative delusions within her. They'd become a black mist, stabbing into my dead spots. She wasn't doing it deliberately, and it wasn't anything special about her. This was a power that a Gigalomaniac had. They could perceive the royal of another human's emotions. They could see another person's feelings. I turned my consciousness to face the image that were forcing their way into my mind, the emotions that were driving Aoi to hate the memories. I could see them, her suffering and sorrow, the memories of the past that ate at her soul. I'm gonna spawn your dad right here and you go attack him. I could use them to my advantage. I stared at Aoi. I wove a delusion. I created a false image that would tear at the wounds in her heart. Aoi shook with surprise. She slowly lowered her sword and stood there, unmoving. Her expression seemed confused. Her eyes were empty. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She wasn't looking at reality anymore. She was inside the delusion I created. All I'd done was give her a little push. Her obsession would do the rest, and create the story I wanted her to see. Aoi couldn't fight anymore. I froze. A voice was echoing directly into my head. One thing I do like about this Rimi route is that it's not doing a lot different from the Silent Sky route, but we're getting a lot more about how Rimi sees things, like basically from her point of view, and how much it kind of hurts her to do what she needs to do. And some of the choices are different. Like here, we were like, no, I don't want to go home with you because I'm not telling you. But for the most part, it has been like very similar. I looked over towards the shipping container. The blade was wreathed in an overwhelming menace, an innocent ferocity, and a destructive elegance. So that was Orihara's D-sword. They frickin' die! Oh my god, I've never seen her like this before! Oh! She raised the D-sword and laughed loudly. Taku screamed.
セナもコズピーも敵なんだ。敵だったんだ。だからリミ殺しちゃえよ。僕は死にたくない。
タク、ちょっと黙って。はーい、ストイリー。
Uh-oh, Orihara smiled happily. So is Takumi? Oh, gonna kill you both! Oh my god. Look at how happy she is. It was like fighting a hurricane. Orihara charged at me with inhuman speed, catching me off guard. Her D-sword came down like a stake. I barely managed to block. The impact blew me backwards. I just barely stayed on my feet. She followed up immediately with a horizontal slash. I tried to deflect it, but I failed. My sword took the full impact of the blow. My arms went numb. Her speed was overwhelming my defenses. I didn't have time to counterattack. Why was she so used to fighting with her D-sword? Her tiny body was flailing the gigantic sword around randomly and seemed to be constantly off balance. Her footsteps were unsteady, like she could fall over at any moment. It was as if she wasn't swinging the blade, but the weapon had a life of its own. Look at what you did, Takumi! Look! As I desperately tried to block Orihara's attacks, I attempted the same trick I used on Aoi. I looked at Orihara's negative emotions. Hey, have you seen this mirror? The image that came into my mind was a mirror. I sent the delusion into her dead spot. She suddenly froze. Tears started to fall from her eyes. I sighed, relieved. I needed to take Takumi and get out of here now. Then I gasped, realizing something was wrong. I couldn't see Aoi. I looked around and she was standing at the edge of the roof. I hurried over to her, but before I could, her body staggered and fell over the edge. Oh no. Ugh. I heard the sound of something hitting the ground. The sound of something being crushed against the ground. It was faint and far away. Was she dead? Was Aoi dead? Because of the delusion I showed her? No, I didn't mean to. Huh? A powerful strike hit me from behind. An intense impact, like I was hit by a truck. My brain rattled in my skull. I flew backwards, helplessly. I slammed into the ground. Aching pain ran through my whole body. The sword hadn't cut me, but she hit me hard with it. My vision was swimming. I tried to stand up, but I couldn't. I could barely tell who I was. I had a mild concussion, probably. This was kind of Kozue's fault because she took attention off of Senna, she was able to, you know, just walk off with no one stopping her. But to be fair, she didn't know that was going to happen. So, just very unfortunate. I used all my energy to look up. Orihara was staggering around randomly, hands up against her head. She was shaking her head violently. Had the delusion I showed her make her go crazy? She was after Taku. She was gonna kill Taku. Why didn't he run? Why was he still here? I had to stop her. I clenched my hand tight. But the D-sword wasn't in it. I dropped it when she hit me. I could see it on the ground just a few feet away. Oh man, I hate Takumi. I know he got better in the first ending, but like I really don't like him as a main character. Taku was begging for my help. I had to help him. I couldn't let her kill him. But I was too far away to do anything. Orihara was already holding the D-sword above her head. It'd only take a second for her to kill him. He was lying on the ground, shaking, unable to move. In less than a second, it would come down and crush him. I had to help him, but there was no time. Countless voices rose up within me. My thoughts were a confused jumble. Countless pairs of eyes stared at me from within my heart. Countless mouths belonging to me were whispering. The whispers joined together, becoming a flood of voices, stealing away my sanity. I forced myself to stand up, but it was all I could do. No, I won't make it! I grit my teeth. Taku was gonna die. Kill Kozue Orihara. As long as Taku was safe, nobody else's life was mattered. No, that wasn't true. Kill. Actually, it would be better if Taku died here. Kill Kozue Orihara. Kill Takumi Nishijo. That's what Takumi wants. What Rimi Sakihata wants, right? No! The D-sword was in my hand. It had been on the ground, but now it was in my hand. I wonder if you can actually make a choice. The sensation of ripping through flesh. She probably got Kozue, yeah. I had no idea how I closed the distance between myself and Orihara, but my D-sword was stabbed deep into her back. This wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't mean to kill her. Or did I? Was that what I really wanted to do? Orihara turned around to look at me in shock. No. I didn't mean to kill her. No more. My D-sword was wriggling in the wound. Like it had a will of its own, like it was shaking with joy at being covered in blood, at being able to take a life. I shook my head no. The D-sword, still stuck in her back, began to clack its wings. No, its fangs. It was ready to devour her. I tried to pull it out, but I couldn't. I couldn't move. I couldn't take my hand off the sword. Orihara spat out blood. The blood fell on my sword and... Kind of wonder what did that. She said that her D-sword had like a mind of its own, but I wonder if it's related to like the multiple personalities she had before her, because it was established in the first ending that she had like her current personality was a delusion, was made by delusions, and there were several of them that, you know, died before her. So I wonder maybe they end up coming back or something. I don't know. This game has gotten me saying I don't know a lot. Blood flew everywhere. Beautiful crimson feathers falling down like rain. I looked around for someone to help me. Takumi was looking at me like I was a monster. But I had. I think it's Takumi's fault. It's Takumi's fault. I blame Takumi. And now he's gonna think that she's a monster for protecting him. Yeah, probably. Senna and Kozupi were dead. They died right in front of me. Rimi had killed them. And now Rimi was asleep on my sofa. After Kozupi had died, Rimi had started shaking and screaming, and then passed out. It had taken me a while to recover from the shock, but I was so scared, and I certainly didn't want to see Kozupi's bloody corpse anymore. I picked Rimi up and brought her inside. Rimi would let out an occasional moan, but no matter how many times I called her name, she wouldn't get up. I sat on the floor, waiting for her to wake up. My body was shaking so badly. Okay. I'm glad at the very least he's not abandoning her, because she did all that for him. Kozupi and Senna were dead. They weren't like the new gen victims. They weren't strangers. They were people I knew. People I knew. The three of us had all eaten Gari-kuns together the other day. Me, Senna, Kozupi. I looked at the photo we'd taken and bit my lip. My mind kept replaying the nightmare I just experienced over and over again. The bright red of Kozupi's blood. The slick, glistening red bones sticking out of her body. The empty, listless eyes. The fear and the indescribable, awful feeling that comes with seeing a person cease to be a person. The sight of her tiny body being torn apart refused to leave my brain. I never realized just how fragile a human being was. I felt like I was going to throw up. I'd already thrown up 3 times, actually. What had happened to Senna? This was an 8-story building. Nobody could survive a fall from that height. She was probably... no, definitely dead. The 2 of them were dead. This was impossible. It wasn't happening. It was a dream. It had to be a dream. They died in such a horrible way, and it was Rimi that killed them too. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it, but it was the truth. I had no idea what had caused Senna and Kozupi to change so abruptly. They said something about Ira too. It probably had something to do with the scribbles of my old essay, but that didn't matter now. Knowing that Rimi was a gigalomaniac didn't shock me that much either. Rimi had fought them to protect me. Maybe she'd gone too far, but I wasn't going to blame her for it. Still, it wouldn't be long before Rimi and I were arrested by the police. Senna and Kozupi's bodies were still out there. It wouldn't be long at all before somebody found them and called the cops. I couldn't let them arrest me. I wouldn't let them arrest me. I could just tell them the truth. I didn't kill the 2 of them. It was Rimi, and Senna had attacked us first, so it was in self-defense. But of course, that wouldn't work. I knew that much. They were practically ready to arrest me over the crucified case. I was sure that would be the same this time. And I couldn't live without Rimi either. I needed Rimi here to protect me from Shogun. If anything, I was glad that Rimi was a gigalomaniac. It meant that Rimi wasn't helpless. She wasn't just a friendly teenage girl. She had the power to fight Shogun, and she was on my side. That's why I wanted her to wake up. I want her to wake up and get rid of Kozupi and Senna's bodies with her delusion powers. Then the police wouldn't come after us. Nobody had found us yet, right? I held back the urge to vomit and looked towards the door. On the other side was Kozupi's bloody corpse. Of the 2, it was more likely that they'd find Senna's body before they found hers. But once they found her, it would be all over. With Rimi still asleep, I had to do something to hide them. I was scared. I didn't want to look at the dead body, especially the dead body of someone I knew. I forced myself to go outside anyway, to protect myself and to protect Rimi. The sun had already set. It was dark on the roof. The moon wasn't out. The clouds had hidden it. I squinted to look directly in the direction of Kozupi's body. Huh? I couldn't find Kozupi anywhere. The blood was still there. It wasn't a dream, but the body was gone. How? Confused, I looked over at the edge of the roof to the street below. Nobody was down there. Senna's body wasn't there either. There was a pool of blood, but nobody seemed to have noticed it. Where was the body? When Rimi had passed out, the body had been there. Rimi hadn't used her gigalomaniac powers to get rid of it. Then, who? Ayase? But she was in the hospital in Yoyogi. Maybe Shogun? But he was my enemy. He wasn't gonna do anything that would help me. What was going on? I sighed, feeling a mix of uneasiness and relief that the bodies were gone. I felt the prickling on the back of my neck. I was being watched. The same unknowing gaze. Shogun? Was he watching me?
僕を見るな。
Don't look at me! I ran back into my room. Oh, is Rimi up? Oh, but she has dead eyes. Rimi was awake. She was looking around the room with a confused expression on her face. She'd woken up, evidently, but what was I supposed to say to her? Rimi had been badly traumatized by the shock of killing Senna and Kozupi. Of course she was. It wasn't like Peking and ESO. She said she didn't mean to kill them too. I had no idea what to say to a person in that situation, so I said nothing at all. Rimi was looking at me, bewildered.
ここ、どこかな？
え？
あなたは、誰？
Oh no, no, her personality got reset. Or either that or, so by that, what I meant is she made a delusion to make a new personality, I think. So the Rimi we know might be gone. Either that or amnesia from shock. Something was wrong.
リミ？どうしちゃったの？
リミ？リミって誰だろう？私かな？私、リミじゃないよ。
何言ってるんだよ。しっかりしてよ。
私のお名前は、
What is it?
わかんないや。
She does sound different.
嘘だよね。
I stormed over to Rimi.
本当だよ。
Suddenly, she ran up and grabbed me. She rubbed her cheek up against me like a friendly pet. Caught off guard, I had no idea how to react.
あなた、誰？私のお友達かな？きっとそうだよね。
Oh, this feels really bad.
お友達ってね、つまりね、私に親切にしてくれる人のこと。あなたは怒らない？私、怒られるのやだ。
This is a very childish persona she has now.
あとね、痛いのも、すごくやだな。
Amnesia, and not just that, regression to being a little girl. I thought that only ever happened in H games. I definitely never thought I'd see it in real life. But maybe it was possible. Rimi had really freaked out when she killed Kozupi. And...
ギガロマニアックスとなったものは誰だろうと一度は壊れているんだよ。
That's what Senna had said before she died too. Maybe Rimi had broken. It made my heart commit suicide. The words came to me, but I couldn't remember when I heard them. But it felt like somebody had said them to me before. What if the shock of killing Kozupi and Senna had caused Rimi to make her own heart commit suicide? And what if the person I was talking to was a newly born personality? That explained why she was acting like a child. DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder, Multiple Personalities was the more common name. That's what Yua had said I had. Of course she was wrong. I didn't have DID. But what if Rimi did, now? It was just a guess I had, but Rimi in front of me was now far different than the one I knew. This Rimi was nothing like the one who had been so kind to me before, the one who told me that she'd stay with me.
こんなの。
I dropped to my knees. I felt awful. Rimi was looking into my eyes, confused. Her eyes were so pure, so innocent. I couldn't look back at her. Maybe I was lucky that Kozupi and Senna's bodies had disappeared, but with Rimi like this, who was gonna protect me? Huh. This is, not the direction I thought this was gonna go. Like, at all. Rimi had, if I could call her Rimi, totally lost her memories. Or maybe this Rimi had never had any memories in the first place.
私は、リミって言うの？
Yes, you are!
うん。
Yeah.
そうだよ。崎畑リミ。
崎畑リミ。そうなんだ。
She spoke like the name meant nothing to her at all.
あなたは？お名前、なんて言うのかな？
僕は西條拓海。
She didn't even know my name? I felt a little depressed, thinking about all the other things I'd have to tell her.
西條拓海。タクだね。
え？
タク。
The same. She was calling me the same thing.
ねえねえタク。あのね、私ね、手がベトベトしてるの。
There was dried blood stuck to her hands. It was dark black and belonged to Kozupi. At least, it probably did. Kozupi had disappeared, but the blood was still there.
ベ べと。やだな。
She was looking at her hands glumly. I remember Kozupi's smile as and felt an aching pain in my chest. I tried to ignore it as I went to get a wet towel.
ほら、手出して。
Rimi nervously offered me both her hands. I wiped them with a towel. The white towel quickly turned red. I had to scrub pretty hard to get all of it off. When I started scrubbing the spots between her fingers,
くすぐったい。
she laughed happily, but she didn't seem to wonder in the slightest why she had blood on her hands. Damn it, why was I the only one who was concerned here? And why couldn't she wipe her own hands? Why did I have to take care of this little girl? No, I couldn't think that way. Rimi had tried to protect me, and, whether intentionally or not, she killed someone in the process. And that had broken her. Yep, that was all you, man. You were like, kill them! And she was like, oh, okay. That's why I couldn't abandon her. It was partially my fault that she ended up this way.
ほら、綺麗になったよ。
At least he has a sense of responsibility, a little bit.
ありがとう。ピカピカだ。私の手。すっきりしたよ。
She grabbed my hand and wrapped her fingers around mine. She was shaking our hands up and down innocently. She looked like a child having the time of her life. For some reason, seeing her smile made me feel sad.
ねえ、リミ、君は僕を守ってくれる？
守る？何を？
僕を。
私ね、よくわかんない。
You're asking a mentally aged child to help protect you? What is she gonna do now? You should be protecting her.
でもね、タコは私のお友達だから、私に親切にしてくれるよね。だからね、私、タコがいてくれてよかったよ。
I don't really know where this is going, and I don't think I like it. This was no good. There was no use counting on Rimi anymore. The Rimi who was going to protect me was nowhere to be seen. I sighed and my head slumped forward. Rimi didn't belong here. Where was her home? I thought about calling her parents, but I couldn't find anything with their contact info on her things. The teachers at school probably know, but it was too late in the day for that. I realized I didn't know much about Rimi. Where did she live? What was her family like? What was her birthday? Or her blood type? I didn't know anything about her. There was nothing I could do.
タク。
Rimi was tugging at the hem of my clothing, calling my name.
ねえねえタク。私ね、お腹ペコペコ。
What time was it? It was already dark outside. Time for dinner. But unfortunately, I didn't have anything in the house. I need to go buy something.
何が食べたい？
What is food and what kind of foods do you have? When you had amnesia, do you forget about food too? Maybe you didn't know what kind of foods there were or what they tasted like.
そうだ。私、お蕎麦が食べたい。
お蕎麦？
お蕎麦好き。
好きなの？
好き。
なんで？食べたことあるの？
食べたこと。
I love this thing I've never had before.
ないかも。でもね、お蕎麦は好きだよ。
What was going on? Were her memories coming back, or did she keep the memories of the old Rimi's favorite foods and lose everything else? It'd be a big help to me if her memories came back, but I decided I might as well go to the supermarket to get some soba noodles.
リミ、ここで待ってて。絶対。はーい。ミシ。
I tried mimicking the pose that Rimi had always used to do. I put one hand to my head like a salute. Maybe this would help her remember something, I thought, but...
石？何？かっこいいね。
Wow, that's so cool, yeah. That didn't work at all. She was looking at me with eyes filled with wonder and excitement. I suddenly became extremely embarrassed and ran out of the room. On my way to the supermarket, I looked around to see if any cops were nearby. Senna and Kosupi's bodies had both disappeared. If the police were nearby, that would mean that there was a witness. If they weren't, that would mean that nobody had seen what had happened. If it was the latter, then I mean, that might mean that nobody was going to find out for a while. Of course, I also watched shadows constantly to see if Shogun was lurking nearby too. Fortunately, I wasn't feeling the gaze of God, but still, I didn't want to go out at night. Dark scared me. While I was looking into the dark, I could see Senna and Kozupi dying in front of me again. I could see their mangled corpses. I quickly looked away and stared down at my feet as I hurried to the supermarket. When I got back to the base, I pulled out the portable gas burner to boil some soba noodles outside. There was no air circulation inside the container house, and there was a lot of stuff that was flammable too. It was too dangerous to do it inside. Oh, so that's how they've been cooking this entire time. I tossed some soba into the pot. Of course they were cheap, dry instant noodles. Rimi was looking at the pot, fascinated.
お蕎麦ってこうやって作るんだね。
The pool of blood from when Kosupi had died was still there. It was almost dry now, and at night, it looked just like a dark stain. I broke down some of the cardboard boxes from my room and put them over it. It didn't actually help anything, but at least it saved me from having to look at it.
たく溺れそうだよ。
Man, part of me is actually kind of surprised that they actually just killed off 2 of the people for this ending. Like, damn, that was not the direction I thought this was going at all. I went back to the burner when Rimi called my name. It was boiling too much, and at that point of overflowing out of the pot, Rimi was just watching it, letting all the small gas of amazement. She wasn't moving at all otherwise.
火を消して。
How? Confused, she turned the dial on the burner and made it hotter.
わあ、売れたよ。すごい。
いや、すごいじゃないでしょ。
I quickly shoved her out of the way and turned off the heat. A lot of the water had spilled out of the pot. Well, whatever. As long as it was edible, I didn't need to think too much about how firm the noodles were or how it tasted. I drained the noodles and washed them with cold water. I didn't know much about anything about cooking soba noodles. I just did that because of what the instructions had said.
冷やしとあったかいのとどっちがいい？
冷たいの。
I put them in the bowl and poured some of the broth that I had bought at the store along with the noodles. For toppings, I had green onions. I sliced them up and we were done. I hurried back into the room with Rimi and Tao. I could clean up tomorrow when it was light. For now, I didn't want to be outside unless I absolutely had to. I could still smell the blood. And even though I knew it was silly, I was still scared. It felt like Senna and Kosubi might come staggering out of the darkness covered in blood like zombies.
ねえ、たく、食べていい？食べていい？
Rimi didn't share any of my worries, it seemed. No, maybe that's why she changed from her last personality into this new one, so that she could forget the fact that she killed 2 people.
どうぞ。
はい、いただきます。
I really don't like where this is going. Because this is Rimi's ending, I'm assuming that there's going to be some romance involved. But now she's got the mentality of a child and it just seems so wrong. She grabbed the chopsticks. She was holding them like a fork. She put her lips to the bowl and slurped the noodles up. That was exactly how a LOLI would eat. Thank you. Thank you very much. She had forgotten how to use chopsticks too, from the looks of it, and how to make soba noodles or turn off a burner too. But she still knew how to say let's eat before she ate her food. It wasn't amnesia then, she just regressed to a childlike state.
食べられないよ。
え？
I wonder if it's gonna come with her childhood trauma stuff.
食べられない。
Rimi was having trouble eating her noodles and getting frustrated. She was trying to eat them the wrong way, and it wasn't working.
食べさせて。
なんだと？
Was she serious? Rimi wanted me to feed her? I felt like I'd become her nurse. No, maybe her father. Please, I couldn't handle having a daughter of my own age.
たく。
She begged me, exactly like a little girl would. I gave in and sighed.
ほら、あーんして。
She brought her mouth down on the noodles I offered her and began to chew happily.
おいしいよ。
それはよかった。
Suddenly I realized, this was it. This was normal everyday life with the 3D girl next to me. This was what I wanted. I don't know if I would call that normal, man. You just killed 2 people, and the girl that you're with literally has, like, the mental capabilities of a 5-year-old. So, like, if that's normal everyday life you want with a 3D girl? I don't think that's right, man. I didn't need any dramatic events like in an H game. No getting involved in her deep psychological traumas. No minor misunderstandings that blew up into fiascos. No murders to solve. This daily life was far too boring to be in a game or a novel. But this is what I wanted. Now I had it, and it was with Rimi too. To be honest, I thought Rimi was cute. She'd even said that she'd protect me. I want to be with her forever if I could. But this was all a lie. This life wasn't going to last. And this Rimi wasn't Rimi. What I had now could end at any moment. And when I thought of that, it made me feel so sad, so lonely, so empty.
戻ってきてよ。リミ、本当に戻ってくれ。
I whispered.
メールだよ、ボケナス。
I gasped. I heard Seroton's voice from the computer. Somebody had sent me an email. Shogun? I had a bad feeling. Whatever was in that email, it wasn't good. I didn't want to see it.
僕を見るな。
I felt a gaze. Somebody was watching me. It felt stronger than it usually did. I looked around. Nobody was here but me and Rimi. I stopped feeding her, so Rimi had gone back into doing battle with her noodle bowl. She wasn't even looking at me. Which meant that there were only one person who could be looking at me. Whose eyes are those? I didn't even need to ask. I let out a moan as I headed to the PC. I checked my messages. Shogun? ChäoS. I don't know. That's wake up. Okay. There's only one new message. Its sender was Shogun.
くそ。くそ。
Oh, was this all gonna be a delusion? What do you want now? Was he gonna kidnap Nanami for real this time, or was he coming to kill me himself? The hairs on my body stood up in terror. The prickling at the back of my neck got even stronger. I felt sick. My head hurt a little too. Please, don't look at me. I opened the email with shaking fingers on the mouse.
あれ?
There was nothing there. The title just read, Wake Up. There was no other text. Wake up? What was that supposed to mean? Awaken to my gigalomaniac powers or something? No way! It felt like Shogun had said something similar the first time we met.
バカにして。僕を怯えさせて、そんなに楽しいか?
Ooh, immensely. That was the point of your whole entire existence, to frighten you, haha. I started to get mad, and at the same time, I want to get rid of the fear that was building up deep in my chest. I slammed my palm down against the keyboard. Rimi's like, ah! A noise came from the speaker. Had I broke something? Oh, jeez. Up to... Oh, that's Misamete, I think. I heard a sound. I heard something mixed in with the noise. I checked the PC, a little worried. The MP3 player wasn't running. I didn't have any video sites open in the browser either. I wondered if Shogun had sent a virus along with the email, but there weren't any files attached to it. There's no time. Again, I was hearing it again. It hurt to breathe. Sweat was beading on my forehead. Right, I could just kill the sound. If I muted the computer's sound, the confusing noise would go away. I clicked the sound icon from the bottom of the right screen. When the volume control menu popped up, I set everything to mute. No, I wouldn't have to hear anything. That noise almost sounded like a voice, but whatever it was, I wouldn't have to hear it anymore. I was tired, confused, and on edge. Of course I was. I'd seen two people I know die right in front of me just a few hours before. And I'd see something weird at the hospital when I went to see Ayase too. Then there was that weird call from Nanami. Oh, whatever that noise was, it was just nerves. Mezamete. Wake up, a voice. There's no time. From the speaker. The third melt is almost here. I heard it clearly. It was him, Shogun's voice, just like when he had spoken to me at the Scramble Crossing.
なんでだよ。ミュートにしたはずだろ。
タク、サードメルトって何?
Rimi looked confused. The expression on her face was still one of childlike innocence. I rushed over to Rimi. I grabbed her by both her shoulders and shook.
リミ、頼むよ。しっかりしてよ。
But I'm already awake.
言ってくれ。僕を守るって言ってくれよ。僕は一人じゃ耐えられない。このままじゃ殺される。
痛くしないで。
僕は君を責めないから。君がいてくれないと困るんだ。
Stop hurting her.
だから
痛いのやだ。
Tears fell from her eyes. I was scaring her. Her shoulders were shaking. I slowly let go.
頼むよ。目を覚まし。
Oh. It's the third melt. The floor began to shake violently. An earthquake? And it was bigger than the last one? No, my fingers, no! There was a violent ring in my ear, the high-pitched sound of something resonating in a way that threatened to split open my head. It was like thousands of tiny needles stabbed into my ears, and my brain was being thrown into a blender. And then... with a terrible impact, my vision turned white. Huh. This is weird. It felt like my body was lying in the lukewarm water. I was floating along the surface, gentle waves overlapping me. And when I woke up, an impossible blue sky stretched out as far as I could see. It felt like I could fall into it. It was a strange sky. There was no sun anywhere. Hadn't I just been in my room? Hadn't it just been nightfall? When did I go outside? When did it become daytime? During the last earthquake, I've been out for over an hour. Maybe this time I've been out for the whole night. I remember the terrible impact of the earthquake. It was like the rumbling of the earth that had resonated with the blood flowing through my body, and the vibrations threatened to tear me apart. Maybe this was heaven. Maybe I died in that earthquake. Heaven? A creepy otaku like me wouldn't be allowed to go to heaven. Especially since I was such a terrible older brother, and I couldn't even protect my sister, and I even forced Rimi to kill Kozupi and Senna. I belonged in hell. Of course, if I had the chance to go to heaven, I'd take it, though. My whole body felt weird. It felt like I was walking on a fluffy cloud or something. I forced myself to sit up. Oh, this is... okay, this sky isn't very silent, so it's not the first ending. I hadn't been imagining the waves lapping me. The world around me was filled with clear water. I looked around, and it was nothing but blue as far as the eye could see. I've been lying on top of the water. Where was I? Was this really heaven? But it felt like I'd seen this place somewhere before.
あの空はどこにあるの?
Hey, OG Rimi. Are we gonna see you floating again? I heard a voice in my mind, a voice coming from within my memories. Yeah, that's right. I'd seen this in a dream. Rimi had been there. I'd been talking to Rimi as she looked up at the blue sky. She looked so sad. Was this the same dream? But I looked around. There was nothing here but me. Nobody was here. Rimi wasn't here. It was also silent. Rimi? I called out, but I couldn't speak. But ripples appeared on the calm water. Are you here? Sounds are vibrations, and vibrations created waves. I could see somebody lying in the water between the waves, just like I'd been a moment ago. I stood up. I could see further now. It was Rimi lying between the waves. Her face was as pale as death. Her eyes were closed. Her hands were crossed over her chest. She wasn't moving at all, just lying there, face up. Rimi, wake up. There was no response. She was probably dead. And it wasn't just Rimi. The whole world itself was dead. I stood there confused. And then Rimi's body started to sink beneath the waves. By the time I realized what was happening, she was almost gone. How was I standing on the water anyway? I got curious and looked below me. It was nothing but darkness. The sky was so bright. The water seemed so clear. I thought he was going to look through the water and see like a whole bunch of Rimis. But below it, there was an endless eternal darkness, and Rimi was sinking into it. I had to follow her. I needed to wake her up. But as soon as the thought entered my mind, the water suddenly gave way underneath me. Into the darkness we go. I sank. My body got heavier. It was like I was underwater, but I could still breathe. The water was so warm. There was something about it that made you want to stay here forever. It wasn't like seawater, but amniotic fluid. This must be how a baby felt in its mother's womb. The darkness seemed to go on forever, but it had a bottom. It was too dark to see my feet, but I could feel something muddy up against the soles of my feet. I stood in the darkness. I looked up, but I couldn't see the water anymore. Here, the darkness hit the blue sky. Oh, it's the spotlight. The only thing to see by was a thin ray of light, falling down from above the darkness. It was illuminating a single point, like a spotlight. But there was nothing beneath it. It was lighting up an empty, meaningless point in space. I stepped into the light nervously. It was warm and gentle, but my chest began to ache the second I stepped inside. What was this feeling? It made me want to cry. It made me want to feel so sad, but I didn't know why. Where was Rimi, and what had happened to her after she sank? I left the spotlight and searched around in the darkness with my foot. My toes quickly bumped into something soft and springy. I crouched down and touched it. It was so cold, I thought it would freeze my fingertips. Little by little, my eyes were getting used to the darkness. Then I realized I was touching a person. Rimi was lying there. How many of them are there? Wake up. I shook her. Rimi, wake up. There was no answer. Rimi wasn't breathing. I grabbed her limp hand and tried to take her pulse. She was dead. There was no pulse at all. Shocked, I looked around. This wasn't the only Rimi that was lying near me dead. Oh no, so many pink-haired girls. It's like the army of Seratons all over again. Countless Rimis were lying around me, like somebody had entombed them here. They were all dead. It felt like this was a graveyard of Rimi's hearts. Countless bubbles appeared before me. I could see that each one of them had a different image inside. And somehow I knew that these were the memories of her deaths. Oh. Are we gonna go to the experimental room?
私の最初の記憶は、落ちてくる雨と、空を覆い隠した、どんよりとした雲。
Wait, what? Are you gonna say it? Okay, this is really weird because she was like, when was it? And then she didn't say anything else. I was still in elementary school, 6 years ago, maybe? It doesn't matter when it was. My memories aren't connected like that. I can see my dad lying there without a head and my mom crushed by steel. A second ago, we'd been in the car, happy to go on a family trip. And then a big truck came out of nowhere, and the next thing I knew, it would squash the car flat. It hurt so bad, like my whole body had been torn apart. I could barely stay awake. I could still hear the sound of the squealing car brakes playing again and again in my ears. Oh, operating room.
次の記憶は、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
When was it? Right after I lost my parents 5 years ago, maybe? It doesn't matter when it was. My memories aren't connected like that.
担当医に剣のようなものが見えたと言ったそうです。
A sword! A D-sword!
聞こえていますか？
Oh, that's Genichi Neurose's voice. That makes sense. It felt like he had called my name, but I can't remember what that name was. That name was already dead.
まだ傷が癒えていないようですね。ご両親が目の前で亡くなったのもショックでしたか？
Yeah, you think?
では、聞いているだけで結構。私はこの AH 東京総合病院の名誉院長でありスポンサーでもあるノロセと言います。君はギガロマニアックスである可能性があります。
What a great person this person will be, I'm sure of it.
ぜひその力に覚醒していただきたい。幸いにも君は天涯孤独になったので、親族などの煩わしい連中も湧いては来ない。
Luckily, I don't need your consent.
というわけで、君は今日をもって死亡扱いとなりました。以後、この地下室で過ごしてもらいます。
I mean, you know that he was fucked up, but still, yeah.
何の心配もいりません。ここは私しか知らない部屋ですから。
Oh, god damn it.
頑張って目覚めてください。期待していますよ。君は実験台です。力を持つ非覚醒者を目覚めさせるためには何が必要か いろいろと試させてもらいます。明日からね。
Oh, so she was one of the first experiments, and they really experimented on her a lot. If that many personalities died. I just stared into the lights hanging from the ceiling. I didn't like the dark. I think that's spotlight.
次の記憶も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
When was it? Locked in that basement? I quickly lost track of time. It didn't matter when it was. My memories aren't connected like that. Why are you whipping me now? Stop!
実に我慢強いお嬢さんですね。背中の皮膚がただれて血が出ているのになぜ耐えようとするのです。早く目覚めれば楽になるというのに。
I just stared into the lights hanging from the ceiling. They blinded my vision, made it so that I didn't have to look at anything else. Wow, so it's implied that she's lived like that for like 10 years.
次の記憶も、
Yeah,
手
same
術台
thing.
の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
When was it? Lost in that basement? I completely lost track of time. Doesn't matter. Oh, blood this
痛い
time.
ですか？皮膚の表面を切るだけですよ。血はたくさん出ますが、死ぬほどで
Shit,
はない
man. He's filleting her.
3日も放置すれば、可能してかゆみがひどいことになるでしょう。そこからが今回の実験の本番です。安心してください。私は医者なのでね、メスの扱いには慣れています。
What a piece of shit.
そうですね。10箇所ほど切り刻みましょうか。
I just stared into the lights hanging from the ceiling. Okay, I'm just gonna skip past some of these because, well, this recording's getting a little bit long, but from what I understand, I'm really close to the end too.
次の記憶も、
It's getting really repetitive.
手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、
What will you do now, Genichi Narose?
そうですか。かゆいですか。しかし、引っかくことは許しませんよ。
Don't worry, I'm a doctor, so I know that blah 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 blah.
人というのは実に不思議なものでしてね。痛みは意外と我慢することができるのですが、かゆみはそうでも。痛みよりもかゆみの方が精神をおかしくさせるには効果的かもしれませんね。
I just stared into the lights hanging from the ceiling. They blinded my vision, made it so that I didn't have to look at anything else. And then I killed myself. Oh, was that the death of the first personality? Basically, they couldn't stand taking the pain or the itch, so they were just like,
次の記憶も、
yeah.
手術台の上から見た、
Honestly, it might not even be the
眩しい
first.
光と、
Actually-
男の人の声。
I think maybe all of these are a death.
左上腕はこれで粉砕骨折。
Oh my god, I'm really tired of this. Because it's just literally like suffer porn, and I'm not for that.
一体何が足りないのでしょうね。
I'm so done with this.
しょうがない。今日の実験はこれぐらいにしておきましょう。ゆっくり休んでください。
And then we're gonna wake up again, she's gonna be tortured another way. Please, just end it. I'm really tired of this.
次の記憶も、
That's one thing I really don't like about this game. They drag
眩
on
しい光と、
certain things for way too long. Like, just for example, the way that Yua talks, where she just keeps stopping and repeating herself in, like, many different ways. I got so tired of that, and now, like, a lot of Takami's inner monologue, too. He just keeps repeating the same thing over and over, and I can't do it. Oh, waterboarding. Yeah, let's look at this form of torture. Yep. I'm sorry. I'm really done with this. I get the point. He's torturing her with like every possible torture so that she'll get a lot of stress and turn into a gigalomaniac, and then she kills herself, and then she keeps repeating over and over. Come on, I get it. I'm literally using the skip thing. Okay, so anesthetic. Okay, paralyze. All right. Another one. Okay, let's see what this is this time. No matter how much I scream, couldn't move his finger. And yeah. Okay, well, I missed the last one. Pretty much same thing. And now nothing but skin and bones, so he's been starving, lying there for an entire year. All right. I'm sorry. This is really unimmersive, but like literally, I am so fucking tired of this. So tired of it. How many of me have come before me? We're back here now. Holy shit, that's enough. Just stop. Yeah, exactly. Just stop it. I had no idea such a horrible past lurked under the other side of her smile. I grabbed one of Rimi's corpses and held it to my chest. It was so cold, I could tell that there was no soul within. But I needed her anyway. I wanted you to be here for me. I wish. I created a delusion. Wake up, Rimi. She was the one person who would protect me. I knew how selfish it was, but I wanted her to protect me. I knew that I didn't have any right to say this after what I just seen, but still, it felt like she was with me. It felt like if she was with me, I could change. I could stop being such a loser. So, wake up, Rimi! The next thing I knew, I was back in the world of the blue world. The water was rippling with tiny waves. And up from below the water, many Rimis. Came countless Rimis. All of them had closed their eyes. They were standing motionlessly on the water. They all started to slide above the liquid surface without moving their legs. One Rimi overlapped with another, which then overlapped with another. The Rimis were all fusing together to create the ultimate Rimi. I watched it all happen in shock. Before too long, there was just 4 Rimis left, and then there were 2. And the last 2 Rimis fused, and became 1. Is she gonna wake up? Oh, seems so. She still has the dead eyes. Her eyes opened. She looked at me. Was this Rimi the Rimi I knew, or another one? I didn't know. I was afraid to speak. I waited for her to open her mouth. She smiled gently at me. Oh, she's back. I thought she was gonna be like, so I like soba. Damn it. And then she posed for me, just like she always used to do. Rimi nodded, and then she gave me a big hug. I buried my face in her chest. I could feel the warmth and softness of her breasts. Gravity disappeared, and Rimi and I began to float in the blue. Huh. I guess this is the main CG for this ending. We laid there as she held me in her arms, softly stroking my hair again and again. It felt so good, like her kindness was all around me. I felt safe, like when my mother held me when I was young. I want to stay like that forever, but I just have to make sure that this Rimi was a real Rimi. I lifted my head just a little to look at her. She laughed loudly. She laughed, even though her past was so terrible.
私全部思い出してるの。これまで自分の心を自殺させることで消してきたたくさんのこと。
So, yeah, I think from what my understanding is, she had multiple personality disorder, but basically she would make a new one every time she had so much suffering that she couldn't endure that, yeah, she had to make a new one. And it just, that process just kept repeating until there were, like, a lot of them. And it wasn't like she switched between personalities. Certain personalities just stayed dead. Huh, that's... Yikes. She looked like she was about to cry, but then she forced herself to smile and ran her fingers through my hair. The next thing I knew, she grabbed my jaw and lifted up my head, and there was something warm and soft that smelled very good, very, very good, pressed up against my lips. Rimi's face was right in front of me. Her eyes were closed. I could feel her breath on me. So, this was a kiss. It was so sweet, and it felt so good that I thought my brain would melt. This one kiss filled my heart with love for her. I knew I was a creepy otaku loser who couldn't do anything but depend on her help. But, still, I wanted everything she had. I'll have what she's having. I closed my eyes. I tried to remember the feeling so that I would never forget it. Oh, we're in her room now. Okay, our room. And when I opened them, we were back in my room. Rimi was lying on the floor, still holding me. Our lips slowly parted. Rimi gave me a little smile. It was so cute. We stared at each other. It was really embarrassing. I didn't realize how soft the girl's body was. 3D was the best. I finally had a real girlfriend. Nobody could call me a creepy otaku loser anymore.
約束したもんね。タクを守るって。
僕を守ってくれる？
守るよ。タクも、タクミも、ナナちゃんも。
Who's this Takumi?
Hmm?
What was she talking about? She ignored my confusion and looked up at the ceiling.
前は、タクミに心を救ってもらって、今度は、タクに心を助けてもらって。だから、今度こそ、私があなたたちを守る。
I couldn't understand why she was calling me both Taku and Takumi, but if a Gigalomaniac like Rimi was going to protect me, then everything would be okay. No matter what Shogun had said to me, Rimi would protect me. As long as I had Rimi, I didn't need anything else.
私、頑張るね。頑張って、罪滅ぼしもするし、あなたたちからの恩にも報いるから。
Atone? Was she talking about Senna and Kozupi? But that was self-defense. She couldn't blame herself for that. What I didn't understand was what she meant by both of you, though. What other person was she talking about?
だから今は、眠って、タク。
Each time she spoke, I could feel the vibrations coming from her body. Her fingers were still stroking my hair. It felt so good, and for some reason, I felt so sleepy. I felt so happy, falling asleep there in her arms. I closed my eyes. Oh, man. Oh, God, this is long. When Rimi Sakihata left the shipping container, the world was completely different than it had been before. A city of death. That was probably the best way to describe it. Several of the buildings in the vicinity had collapsed. The ones that were still standing had deep cracks in their walls.
サードメルト。これほどだなんて。
手遅れだったよ。
Oh, whoa.
野呂瀬源一は予定より早くノア2を本格的に稼働させた。
Huh. Right, that did happen. Yeah, it happened around this time. I forgot that. Like, after the fight with Senna and Kozupi, so they went to check Takumi's old house. Then, after finding out it was not real, they parted, they split ways. Rimi went to go to Noah 2 to get Nanami back, while Takumi went home, was depressed, saw fake Nanami, and then at night he went to do the thing at Shibuya where he awakened to his powers. But that was when Noah 2 hit, and it's about the same time because, as you can see, it's nighttime. A boy sitting in a wheelchair appeared on the roof. This was an old building, not built to accommodate people with disabilities. It was impossible for the boy to have gotten up here alone, but he was here anyway. Rimi didn't seem surprised to see him at all.
元の君に戻ったみたいだね。
元の私なんていないよ。どっちかっていうと、タクが望んだ私に戻ったっていう感じ。タクがそう望んでくれたことはさ、すごく嬉しかったけどね。
彼はまたディソードなしで力を使った。
Oh right, I forgot. He didn't get his D sword yet.
もう少し追い込めば覚醒できる。
タクのことはそっとしておいてあげて。
Rimi cut him off.
ノア2は私が何とかする。ナナちゃんも私が助ける。あなたも死なせないよ。
What are you gonna do to him? He's gonna die in a few days.
君一人じゃノロセに対抗はできない。
But what about 15 of me and all the Rimis of Christmas past just emerge from her body?
それに前から言っているけど、君は普通に生きるべきなんだ。
タクとね、約束したんだ。
There was a fragile smile on Rimi's face as she looked up at the gloomy gray sky above her.
私がタクのこと守るって。だから行くね。ビシッ。
Bishi!
Rimi.
Rimi walked past him and down the stairs. The boy couldn't follow her. He just sat back in his wheelchair and sighed.
自分を犠牲にするつもりなの。Rimi.
Oh man. This is really long. Oh, she's here now. Noah 2, bringer of the disaster, or perhaps a creator of mankind's utopia. Rimi didn't care which. Whatever it was, she was going to destroy it. Rimi knew where Noah 2 was. A shared awareness quietly and cleverly slipped into the human mind. It was right in front of Shibuya Station. It was in a building that had supposedly been torn down years ago. Nobody suspected a thing. Nobody went inside. Rimi opened the door to what had once been a planetarium and stepped inside. So, yeah, it seems like Takumi hasn't awakened, and he's just at home asleep. So, in this case, we haven't really gone through a lot of the things that happened in the first part. So, I wonder how she's going to resolve this. Her eyes went wide when she saw that, what was inside. It was like a device, impossibly huge and monstrous. The room was dome-like, with a device at its center. There was a small, eerie sound that echoed throughout the huge space. It was low, like a beast's growling. The sound meant that the device was online. Noah 2. Nanami Nishijo was being held right next to it. Her uniform was torn, and there was a bloody bandage on her right hand, and her head was slumped forward, limp. She was terribly pale, too. Rimi struck wordless at the sight. Like Jesus, nailed to the cross. No, it wasn't a cross that held her captive. It was a terrible, almost malicious shape. And aside, all the evil in the world, all the chaos in the world, blah blah, we saw that part. All of these things and more. Rimi quickly and cautiously looked around. There's no one else in the room but Nanami. She was looking for Genichi Norose, the man who was once her torturer and was now the leader of Noah 2 Project, but he wasn't here. She was surprised, but she decided to prioritize saving Nanami, and she ran over to the strange object holding her.
Nana-chan,
He's gonna be like, well, you've arrived, I see. She brought Nanami down and was relieved to see that she was still breathing. The first thing she had to do was get her somewhere safe. She went to help her up, but... Ew, that's blood. A terrible pain in her back, like something tearing through her. Rimi spat out blood. The blood fell on Nanami's clothes.
久々の再会だというのに、私には挨拶もなしですか?
She turned around, trying to hold back the pain. Wait, wasn't she trying to get her off of the D sword So, but then he hit her with the D sword when Nanami was on the D sword, and never mind. Genichi Narose was standing right there, and in his hand was a strange black object that had been holding Nanami. It was a sword. It was Genichi Narose's D sword, and now it was stabbing into her body. Narose slowly pulled back his hand. The sharp blade of the D sword slid through her body, cutting into her bones. Rimi arched her back and began to flail from the pain. Narose's blade left her body. Her blood poured out everywhere. All the nerves inside her were screaming. The pain threatened to make her pass out. Rimi knew exactly how powerful a gigalomaniac Narose was. He held her for over 3 years. She couldn't beat him in a head-on fight either, but she knew that he wouldn't let her escape either. At least, I have to get Nana out of here. A taste of blood was filling her mouth. She kept feeling a violent urge to vomit. The open wound on her back burned like it was on fire. She could barely move from the pain, and the blood just kept coming. She almost passed out. It was so cold, her vision was going blurry. She could just barely make out the cruel smile on Narose's face. Maybe this was the end. Rimi couldn't even imagine a situation where she escaped alive. The only thoughts in her mind were of pure despair. Oh, it's like the Silent Sky ending, but instead of Takumi being relevant, it was Shogun helping Rimi. So you just cut a big portion of it out. It was a voice she recognized. Takumi Nishijo, the boy who called himself Shogun. The voice is coming from very far away, like telepathy. It used the same principles as mind reading, a power that only gigalomaniacs had.
Takumi.
君にこんな辛い役目を任せてしまってごめん。もう余計なことは言わない。君の意志を曲げることは無理だって分かったから。死ぬつもりなんだね。
If there was a way to get out of this alive, I would have taken it.
彼が目覚めなかった以上、僕にはどうすることもできない。だからせめて僕の最後の妄想を君に。
何言ってるの？あなたはそんなことしなくても。
Rimi screamed out to a person who wasn't even here.
君だけを死なせるわけにはいかないよ。
だって
もういいんだ、リミ。ノロセを殺してほしい。ノア2を破壊してほしい。僕がサポートするから。
Rimi bit her lip, wiped away her tears, and tried her best to keep herself from passing out. We got our second win! She rebooted her D-sword. Countless feathers fell from the sky. She raised a sword, holding Nanami in one hand. The blood was pooling at her feet. It hadn't stopped. It wasn't going to. Generic slice effect. Narose brought his D-sword down on her. Rimi blocked with her own, making sure to keep Nanami away from the blade, but he was so much bigger than her. Her frail body couldn't handle the force of his attack. She flew backwards and collided with a wall. A crack formed in the wall of the planetarium. Oh man, no, I think she's had enough. I had enough, and I was only there for like 5 minutes. Narose slowly began to walk towards her. There was confidence in his eyes. Rimi was no threat to him. Rimi grinned, but her grin was stiff and frozen on her face. And then, for some reason, she swung her sword at the cracked wall behind her. The wall fell away, revealing the sky outside. It was raining. Dark clouds were hanging low above them. No, you see, electronics don't do well with water. I'll hit you with the power of rain! Rimi sat Nanami down on the ground. She held her from behind, keeping the D-sword in one hand. Just kick Nanami through the hole. Alright, she's out of this battle. Rimi created a delusion, a bright blast of light. Sorry, I heard the thunk sound as we zoomed into her blade. When it disappeared, her D-sword was gone, and instead, there were wings of the purest white on Nanami's back. The white wings, impossibly pure, enveloped her bloody body like she was an angel. Her appearance horrible to look at, but still beautiful. Nanami was unconscious, but the wings took flight, as if they had a will of their own. Rimi moved away from Nanami. As Norose watched, confused, Nanami flew through the hole in the planetarium wall and out into the sky around them. She glided slowly away in the rainy Shibuya sky. Rimi watched her go unharmed, unarmed.
無事でいて。
理想像を妄想によって翼としたのですか。それで君は逃げないのですか。
Norose was close enough to kill her with the sword. A single movement of his arm would sever her head. She was watching him, however, with no fear in her eyes.
まだ逃げられないよ。あなたを殺さなきゃいけないから。
She brought a gleaming cross from a cross? Did she have a cross? From her pocket. It wasn't a cross, it was a stake. Oh, the same cross-shaped stake used in the crucified murder. Rimi just had real booted it. Norose chuckled as he looked at it.
私を殺す？そのようなおもちゃでですか。随分と舐められたものですね。
More slashes. His attack was fast. The D-sword he held was bigger than he was, and his slash opened her side with a speed that was impossible according to the laws of physics. Only after her body staggered from the impact did she realize that she'd been cut. Oh, my ears! She collapsed, screaming from pain. Norose had deliberately used less than a lethal stroke. He could have killed her, but he chose not to. As she writhed on the ground in pain, he walked over to her and brought his foot down hard on her arm. Gritting her teeth and panting for breath, she stopped moving. She had no choice but to stop moving. The tip of Norose's massive D-sword stabbed into her back, but he hadn't run her through yet.
もう一度聞かせてもらっていいでしょうか。やめませんよ。
He pressed down hard as she begged for him to stop. The tip of the blade dug even deeper into her bloody body. It was like he was pinning an insect to a block. Oh man, whoever wrote this thing really has a boner for suffering. Oh man, oh man, I don't know what to say.
私を殺すと言いましたか。それとも私の聞き間違いでしょうか。
Rimi was lying face down on the ground. She reached forward with one arm and grabbed Norose's leg. There was a firm resolve burning deep within her tear-stained eyes. She glared up at Norose from below.
殺してあげる。私があなたを。
Norose pulled out his sword and kicked her in the jaw as hard as he could. Her body rolled along the floor like a doll.
しばらく会わないうちに実に不愉快な人間になったようですね。
Hey, you were always nasty since the moment we met.
すでに君は用済みです。利用価値があるかと思い生かしておきましたが、もういりません。
Rimi was already at death's door. She gotten up and was trying to crawl towards me. But wait, towards me? With no D-sword and no ability, she was as good as dead. Are we in the perspective of Norose now?
私に生意気な口を叩いたことを後悔しながら死んでいってください。例えばそうですね。これから30年ほど私が
Oh
君に
man, 3 years wasn't enough. We need to multiply that by 10.
妄想。
Oh, what's this? Norose's lips twisted. He stared at Rimi as the feathers fell around him. He formed a delusion. He held his D-sword tight. He expanded the channel to the direct sea. The particles and antiparticles needed to manifest his delusions were born. Of those, he took only the former, and sent them into Rimi Sakihata's dead spots. Using his gaze,
それを
That's what I've been waiting for. Woo! Nani? Let's stick that stake somewhere. Oh, those were all eyes! In an instant, the feathers turned into eyes. But whose eyes are those? Until that moment, the only eyes looking at Narose had been Rimi's, but now he was surrounded by 1,000 eyes, all floating in the air.
その目。誰の目？
I didn't think she would actually say that. Oh man, nailed it. That was a final delusion that Takumi had given her. Oh man, I thought we were doing the Unlimited Blade Works music. The particles he created were blocked by innumerable eyes and never reached her dead spots. And then all the eyes linked with the direct C, creating an anti-particles of their own. An impenetrable defense against a Gigalomaniac's power. Oh my god. Oh, I've been recording this for so long. Only Takumi Nishijo could create such a thing. Only a Gigalomaniac with enough power to give life to an entire human being was capable of such a feat. And even then, only by using the last dying embers of his life, a monstrous delusion, given life by real booting. That's pretty terrifying. Narose gasped in shock as the eyes surrounded him. Wherever he looked, there were eyes staring back at him. And more were appearing out of nowhere. As soon as he saw nothing but eyes, and the eyes were getting closer, an instinctive fear overtook. Biblically accurate angels incoming. He clenched his jaws and began to wildly flail about his D-sword. Blood spurted from the eyes as he struck, and they closed and disappeared. But behind them were more. No matter how many he destroyed, more came. How does it feel, bitch? How does it feel?
それならもう一生目を開けなければいい。
Narose felt the pressure in his chest, and then a pain signal reached his brain. It was the steak! Served extra raw! The eyes all disappeared like a lifting fog. I said log. Rimi was right in front of him, and the cross-shaped stake in her hand had stabbed deep into his chest. Narose was dead. After she was sure that he was gone, Rimi dropped helplessly to her knees. She was bleeding badly, and her face was pale and clammy. She was barely even conscious. Her breathing was ragged and painful. Her vision had already gone dark. She could just barely make out the eerie sounds made by the still functional Noah 2. But I'm probably gonna need someone else to destroy it.
ごめんね。タク。
She whispered, her voice barely audible.
約束。守れそうにないみたい。ナナちゃん助けたから。それで罪滅ぼしなんかにはならないけど助けたから。
She slowly raised her head. She couldn't see it, but the wall of the planetarium in the front of her was shattered. Beyond it lay the sky. It had been raining a moment ago, but what about now? She couldn't see what color the sky was now, but she looked up at it and smiled just a little.
あの空をあなたともう一度見たかったな。タク。
Oh,
ありがとう。
is this really gonna be the ending? Oh man. Is there more? Or is it gonna be credits? Okay. Container. Look at the blue sky. I opened the door to the base and headed outside. A beautiful blue sky spread out before me. It felt like it had been raining since a moment ago. It must have cleared up like in an instant. Rimi was nowhere to be seen. She disappeared without a word. She left me once again. I'd wait a few hours, but she didn't come back. Instead, waiting outside of the room for me was...
Shogun!
The wrinkled boy in the wheelchair who was looking at me. He seemed almost upset, like he didn't want to be here. I dropped to the ground in fear.
君はこれから自由だよ。僕は あと1時間もしないうちに生き絶えるだろう。君に脅威を与える存在はリミが殺してくれた。
He's like, wait, wasn't that you? Wait, what? I gasped when I heard him say her name. Rimi had gone to protect me?
青井瀬名と折原梢の死体は僕が隠しておいた。七海は病院に収容された。だから君はもう自由だ。
What was he talking about? Wasn't he my enemy?
リミは
What about her?
リミはどこへ？
リミはもう戻ってこないよ。
え？
それじゃ。
Goodbye. With a practical hand, he turned his wheelchair around until his back was to me. Oh, practiced hand. Whoops. I blinked, and in the span of less than a second, he was gone. What was going on? What had happened? I heard the low rumble in the distance. I looked over towards the center of Shibuya and saw a single trail of black smoke rising into the sky. Maybe there was an explosion? Something had happened. Something was happening. A riot? Maybe something more supernatural? Maybe a fight between two Gigalomaniacs? I was so scared. I was scared of the strange things that Shogun had just said to me. I didn't want to go outside.
リミはもう戻ってこないよ。
She isn't coming back, but I think she did her job. Rimi might be there. I felt strangely calm, even though she'd left me again. It was odd. I didn't feel like she betrayed me. Instead, I was sure that she was somewhere out there, all alone, doing her best for me. And you're right. But Rimi, you've already done your best for so long. You suffered so much. You don't need to suffer anymore. It's not fair. I remember the soft feeling of her lips. I decided to look for her. I decided to stop hiding in my room and being afraid. Things were about to change. For me and for her. Our lives were going to be different from now on. There's so many happy things, so many wonderful things waiting for us. We just had to believe.
朝一緒に学校行って、学校では休み時間にどうでもいいこと話して、
And you real Buddha, waifu?
お昼休みは一緒にご飯食べて、夕方一緒に帰って、帰るついでにたまにどこかのお店に寄ったりして、タクの部屋でちょっとだけおしゃべりして、それでまた明日ねって手を振って別れて。
Oh man, this song. A grand finale.
いくらでもしてあげるよ。そういうの結構憧れなんだ。
I understood now what Rimi had meant. How much she did long for that simple normal life. Thinking back, we hadn't spent much time together at all. But the time we did spend together was fun. It made me happy. My life had been so empty, so dead, when I was all alone by myself in the room. Her smile had given me hope. She made me feel like a brighter future might be coming. She smiled for me. So from now on, it was time for Rimi to smile for herself. I refused to believe that she wasn't coming back. This wasn't just my usual refusal to accept reality. This was my resolve. The only words I believed were the words of the girl who said that she'd always be there for me. Rimi. Now it's time to go. Go, Takumi Nishijo. Go and see Rimi again. I headed into the shattered remains of Shibuya. Oh crap, I clicked A because I was trying to go through the dialogue. I cut off the ending by accident. Anima Archetype end. Ooh, okay. Well, my bad. That wasn't on purpose. I wonder if it'll be in the extras. Oh, it is. Okay, here. I'll play this as I talk about how I felt about this ending. Wait for me, Rimi. I'll find you. Oh yeah, this is definitely a different song. And this time, it will be my turn to stay with you. Roll credits. Oh yeah, okay. So, I thought the stuff with, okay. So the major differences were at the end. A lot of the stuff like prior to the ending, which I believe would be like chapter 9. A lot of things prior to that, it felt like it was just more context in terms of Rimi's motivations and actions, like I mentioned before. But the stuff with the fight and afterwards, I think the fight was fine. It made sense, but the fact that she reverted back to a child was really weird to me. But when you think about it, it's not completely out of the blue, because it does explain, or it is explained by her personality disorder, and it was just one way of basically explaining how it works and giving Takumi an in to understanding her problems. So I think that was overall I think that was okay. I mentioned this before, but like, this game has a really bad habit of repeating themselves way too many times. And that torture stuff, I know they're trying to hammer in, yeah, she was tortured. I understood that like 3 tortures in. I think they had like 7 different times where she was tortured, and it was just way too much. It just, I literally just had to skip it. I couldn't do it anymore. Rimi overall as a character, honestly, I ended up really liking her. I thought she would have romantic feelings for Shogun, but here it confirmed that nope, she just really wants to repay him for all the things that he's done for her. So, I guess that's a win for Takumi, because Takumi was afraid of competition. I thought the ending was, I didn't really understand the multiple eye thing, to be honest. It was supposed to be epic, like, aha, I've been waiting for this moment. I got you now, but I didn't really get it, to be honest. I don't know what was, the thing about eyes and delusions is that you have to make sure that everyone sees the same thing in order for a delusion to properly work, and you do that by hitting their dead spots. But maybe it's because it was late and I was really far into this recording, but I didn't really understand what she did at the end. Like, I understand that was the power of Shogun. He was able to perform that miracle, but I don't understand what that miracle was. I don't understand how it was able to beat Genichi Narose. Did it basically make it so that she didn't have any dead spots that he could abuse, and all the eyes were in his dead spot, so he was just extremely distracted as she impaled the stake into his heart? If that's the case, I guess that still makes sense, but I just didn't really understand it too much, to be honest. Going through this New Game Plus was kind of annoying, but now I realize that the ending exclusive stuff is not as long as I thought they were going to be. I did this ending in 2 episodes. I bet this is going to be one really long as hell episode. But, so I had to go through the entire game and making choices in every chapter up until chapter 8. But according to this guide, for like example, the next route that I'm going to do is Nanami's route. And here I have to make the choices in the beginning with like the swimsuit in chapter 1. And then after that, I just skip all the way to chapter 6. So that means that like the amount of work I have to do the routes after this are going to be significantly less. Same thing for Ayase's route. I have to do something at chapter 2 and then skip all the way to chapter 6. And same thing for Senna's route. Something in chapter 3 and then skip all the way to chapter 6. Kozue's route, chapter 3, skip to chapter 6. And Yua's route, something in chapter 1 and then skip to chapter 6. And then after that, it's a true ending. But yeah, so there were just a lot of there was a lot of setup for in New Game Plus for me to do like the endings. But now that I've kind of got an idea of how to do it and have made appropriate save spots in every chapter, I feel like I'm gonna be able to do, at least, I'm not gonna say breeze through, but hopefully do the endings in a much more efficient manner. So maybe the rest of the endings will take an episode each, 2 at most, hopefully, unless the extra ending sections are significantly longer. But yeah, I look forward to doing the next one. I just kind of listed out the order that I was going to do them in, because that's the order of the guide. But yeah, Rimi's still a pretty good character. Takumi, still don't really like him. He's overly creepy, to be honest. I guess I know we're in his head, but even outwardly, he's just I can't. Shogun's pretty cool, and all the extra stuff that we got from the chapter was pretty informative. So overall, I enjoyed Rimi's route. It wasn't the best, but it was still all right. But well, like I said before, we'll be heading into Nanami's route next time. But until then, I will be seeing you. See ya!